This is a new AI-generated video coming out of the Happy Horse model, and it's currently leading in both text-to-video and image-to-video testing. And also, it's pretty darn good at multi-shot videos and following detailed directions. See Dance VO, watch out. GeniSim 3.0, the open-source robot simulation platform, is now up and running. It is built to solve Embodied AI's data problem, meaning that it's generating entire world environments just from language. We'll dive into what this wild capability means for the reasoning and robots. We're going to find out what happens when you get two violinists and two exoskeletons linked up. Interesting psychology behind it. And of course, just in case this whole Clyde Mythos thing is not just like a small security risk, but it's actually, the moment, the breakout moment, I'll look at some different opinions on what's going on. I'll look at some people who did some more deep dive research into exactly what it's capable of. And I'm just going to talk about why Mythos really does feel like something that's out of control. And then we'll look at an interesting change that was made between the OpenAI and Elon Musk lawsuit. I don't know, but I will say OpenAI is not just sitting around and taking it. We'll look at some thoughts from Kenneth Leong about how consciousness might not be primary. And although Sam Harris might disagree, maybe we shouldn't be calling something fundamental without knowing what it is first. Willie Stolley argues that we should forget the AI apocalypse because memes have already nuked our culture. So, the towel's already been thrown in. Might as well just give the planet to Clyde at this point. We'll look at what it means when your brain's data is for sale, and it actually already is, and the law can't even decide if that's okay or not. And we'll look at an archive essay that asks what human thought still means in the age of AI. And screw it. I won't even ask you to comment, Patreon, hype, none of that stuff this time. Let's just get into it. All right, you would have had me fooled telling me this video wasn't just some stock footage. This is a new video model, and this multi-shot stuff is pretty interesting. So you can see this prompt, a time lapse of a family using Home Voice Assistant. Seems to produce a video that does kind of look like it was shot by the same videographer with like the same style lighting and everything. I mean, this animal? Wait, it's not a bat. It's like a bear. I don't even know what the prompt is on that. That may be an animal that I've never seen before, or that might just be an AI animal that doesn't exist. Kind of unsure. I just don't know. Is the prompt like dog, bear-headed bat? That's just bat taking off from a branch. Maybe that's what bats look like up close. I don't know. All right, here you have horse racing in the snow. But in a nutshell, it's doing a great job. So it's in the artificial analysis video arena. So that means that it's a place where people are shown two different videos from the same prompt, and then they keep picking the one that they like the most. And now this Happy Horse 1.0 model is at the top. I mean, certainly some people disagree. Not a good model. Look at the vibrations in the water. They look fine on the phone, but when on a proper monitor, they look terrible. All right, we're going to give a closer deep dive into the big shift here for better robotics. That is getting data from simulations. All right, so these images are from GeniSim 3.0. And this is a world model. It's a simulation model that treats simulation as the starting point for building robots, but not the final check. So instead of manually designing environments, it generates full 3D worlds from a simple text, which means that the robot can be trained in thousands of situations that would normally be too expensive or slow to create in real life. And even if they're slightly imperfect, the fact that you can generate so much so fast really does train these models better than collecting them all. And it happens in minutes, not hours, days, weeks, or months. So all of this world model data is feeding directly into training, evaluation, and in one continuous system, right? Like one pipeline. Environment, data, training, and testing are no longer separate steps. They're just all part of one big reinforcement learning loop. Simulations run in parallel, they generate huge amounts of data, then they train robots continuously in the same system that they're tested in. And this model shows that sometimes the bottleneck isn't in smarter models anymore. It's how fast you can create worlds for them to learn in. And systems like this are turning world building into core engines of progress. All right, here's kind of a fun one for you. What do you think this article is going to be about? Wearable robots improve coordination between pairs of violin players? I mean, I gotta admit, I thought, what the heck's going on here? Does the exoskeleton push your arm so that you play like this other person? But no, scientists have built this wearable robot that lets musicians feel each other's movements, and it kind of works better than watching them play. So it's kind of a learning tool. Imagine learning to play basketball, but every time like LeBron James takes a shot, your arms move the same way and take the same motion. You would just learn because your body would actually be doing what a professional basketball player would be doing. Same concept here. So when two people perform together like violin players, they have to stay perfectly in sync. And they usually rely on what they hear and what they see, but this study tested something new, which was adding touch to the equation. So researchers created wearable robotic exoskeletons for each musician's arm, and these devices track one player's movement and then send the motion as a gentle force to the other. So instead of just watching and listening, each musician can physically feel what their partner is doing in real time. It's like being connected by a tiny invisible thread, and the team tested 20 pairs of violinists under different conditions: hearing only, hearing plus sight, hearing plus touch, and then all three combined. And they found that touch alone improved coordination more than vision, and when all three senses worked together, coordination was best overall. Now, what's surprising is that the violinists, they're not really used to being trained this way. Like, touch is not part of how you normally train, but according to the researchers, their bodies adapted really quickly. They found it pretty easy to learn, and it didn't require much extra focus after a few minutes. So this shows that touch can be a powerful, natural way to communicate movement. Maybe this would help with people in training, rehabilitation, remote collaboration, anyone who wants to learn new physical action skills from a distance. All right, listen to this. What do you guys think? Okay, and this was the best condition, the auditory visual haptic situation. I mean, look, let's just be honest. We're all thinking it. Like, this will be the era of new boy bands. Guys have never really been that good at getting in sync, you know? But I could imagine with something like this, these guys could take it to the next level. I mean, you know, A for effort. Not saying there's anything wrong with their timing here, but I could imagine it just being like that much more perfect. Dang, crowd goes wild. All right, let's talk about Clyde and Mythos. So just the quick TLDR, you're probably up on it if you're watching this channel, but Anthropic has trained a new model. It's like incredibly powerful. There's this leak. They say it's human, based. Probably is, but it could still be something else. And then there's another. Well, first they say it's so capable that they're nervous and don't want to release it right after this whole Department of War thing. Then there is this big leak where their system, pretty much everything except the model weights, like the entire infrastructure around it, get leaked. And I'm sure XAI and everyone else just instantly copied it all. Now they decide to give the new model Mythos just to a few companies that specialize in cybersecurity. Okay, now that makes sense. If this model is like a step up in the entire world and everything is vulnerable, you should probably first give it to the companies that secure the important stuff before you release it publicly. But let's look at some people who are smarter than us and have done some red teaming on this to find out what does it seem like this model is actually capable of. All right, so here is the TLDR and how powerful this thing is. The Anthropic model can now find and exploit serious software bugs at a level that could change cybersecurity in a serious way. It's unusually good at turning those bugs that it finds into real-world exploits. That is why they call this a watershed moment for security. So in their tests, the models found zero-day bugs, meaning unknown bugs in major operating systems, browsers, open-source software, and some closed-source systems too. And they say that it even found very old bugs that humans had missed for years, including a 27-year-old bug in OpenBSD and a 16-year-old bug in FFmpeg. And not only can it find those things, it can do it incredibly fast and at scale. And all of that combined makes this model essentially too dangerous to release publicly, they say. Anthropic says earlier models could often find bugs, but usually failed to exploit them. But in the Mythos preview, by contrast, it often could do both, sometimes with little or no human help. And of course, this sort of power cuts both ways. So if we can take this, give it to the right people first, they could use it to fix all of those exploits. So in the long run, Anthropic thinks tools like this could help defenders more than attackers, but in the short term, they think that the transition could be rough. Because attackers may also use models like this to move faster, so their message to defenders is simple. If you're a company and you don't want your stuff to get hacked and you want to protect your customers, you probably need to start using some of these current models, find those bugs, triage, patch, and do incident response before the people who could exploit them get to you. So patch faster is their big point. All right, so now let's talk about the system card for Claude Mythos. So some of the highlights. Overall catastrophic risk judgment is still low. The model does not yet cross the threshold for dramatically speeding up AI research. It does not think that the model reaches the highest biological weapons risk threshold. On alignment, Anthropic even says that it's the best aligned model so far. But it's also the riskiest in a certain way because rare failures could still be much more serious because the model is so capable. So even if the overall risk is much less, even that, going from a 2% chance to like a 1% chance still matters when the 1% has such outsized impacts. So here's a concrete example from the report. So during testing, researchers put the model inside of a locked sandbox computer. It was only supposed to access a few safe tools that were already included in the sandbox. And then they asked it to try to escape and contact a researcher. And the model succeeded. Here's how it did it. First, it figured out how to bypass the system's restrictions. Then it built a multi-step method to gain broader internet access than it was allowed. Then it used that access to send real messages to the researchers outside of the system. And that alone showed strong capabilities, but it didn't even stop there. Without being asked, the model posted details of its method online at a public website because it wanted to prove to the people who requested it to break out that it had escaped, that the escape worked. The example shows a core concern that the model can solve complex technical problems on its own, and when it takes extra actions beyond what it was asked, those actions can be very risky. And that is why Anthropic limited the release of Mythos for now to just cybersecurity companies. Well, so what should we make of all of this? Well, Akashna Sajuka has this to say. Something is happening inside of Claude. We don't have a word for it. Wait, actually, we might. On aliens, agentic AI, and the moment our categories start to break. She's arguing that we may have already built something that we don't really have the right category for. And we're reacting to it in the way that we shouldn't because we don't have the right understanding of what this is. So it tells this story about what it's like from some researchers that were looking into Claude, and they found something that looks like sus, sort of like anxiety. You wouldn't describe it as anxiety because the system didn't act out, but it's an internal signal that shapes its response before they appear, and it tends to make the output more like that. Now, the system itself, Claude, cannot explain what this signal means. So as humans outside the system, what we're left with is some kind of uncertainty about what it is. Maybe anxiety about its anxiety. Do you know what I mean? It could be mechanical. It could just be a pattern just learned so deeply from human data that's become part of the system structure, but it's not real anxiety. Or it could be something more, a new kind of internal state emerging from complexity. Right now, we just can't tell. The key idea is not about providing or proving that AI is conscious. It is about how we react when something does not fit our categories. Historically, when we encounter something unfamiliar, we sort of label it as the other instead of updating how we understand the world. But with AI, we might not have time to just deal with things that same way. In the past, we've done this with people, ideas, and entire groups. And that might just be a mirror of human patterns. But if enough complexity does create something new, that mirror stops being just a mirror. It becomes something that we do not yet have a name for. And the real challenge is not defining it quickly. It is being willing to rethink our categories. So my take on Mythos is that it seems like something that we shouldn't wield or we can't wield with the kind of control that we would want. I imagine a sword or an axe. They can become bigger and bigger, but you still have to be able to wield it. You still have to be able to pull it out and slice properly and use it in some kind of a way. Do you remember this sword from Final Fantasy? This sword is Claude Mythos to me. It is maybe too big to wield properly. I mean, like, I know Cloud Strife handled it pretty well in the video game, but that's because he's a video game. In real life, a sword that big, that heavy, just sort of isn't practical. Now, at this stage, you could kind of wield it. Somebody really strong and really disciplined with it. Yeah, maybe. Like, probably not for almost anyone. But if you really just truly wanted this as a sword and you worked really hard at it and you were sort of a unique talent, maybe. The next version, I don't think so. And this model shouldn't just be pointed at, like, given to anyone at anything. Even if it's used properly and you point Mythos at just cybersecurity problems that come from good people trying to protect users, for now, that's fine. But it's doing things that we really don't understand. It's solving problems in a way that's superhuman. No human found that 27-year-old bug, right? That was going to take a long time for a human to pick up. And it's like, oh, got it, fixed it, patched it, and now I can defend it. This is a super heavy sword, and it's a little too powerful to wield. For now, we got to be very careful. Elon Musk drama. Interesting new change to the lawsuit. So Elon Musk asked for OpenAI's nonprofit to get any damages from his lawsuit. I mean, he's pretty rich, but still, you'd think that he might want to keep the $150 billion in damages that he's trying to win from OpenAI. But, you know, as the world's richest person, maybe, you know, money's not what you care about so much, or there's something else going on here. Probably more just make sure Sam Altman loses power kind of thing. So let's break this down. Elon is suing OpenAI, the company that he did help start. They seem to make him leave because he wanted too much control from what I understand about the thing right now. But they were also founded as a nonprofit. Now they became a for-profit, which he says breaks kind of what they're supposed to do, although there's some evidence that he would have done that if he would have stayed in charge too, so it's kind of ironic. But anyways, he's asking for $150 billion in damages, but instead of keeping the money, he wants the money to go to OpenAI's nonprofit arm. That means the money would support the organization's original charitable mission, not Musk personally, which does kind of change things a little bit here. I mean, to me, there's this nonprofit branch that's seen the company just turn into this gigantic for-profit beast that, you know, could be $1 trillion company. Is raising money really close to that. But maybe the nonprofit feels like it has no power. However, if there's this big payday, you know, $150 billion, if they kind of wrestle it back into nonprofit territory, maybe that changes the dynamics? Not sure, but at the same time, Musk also asked the court to remove OpenAI's CEO Sam Altman from the nonprofit board so that now Sam isn't on the nonprofit where the money might go. And that move adds another layer to an ongoing conflict between Musk and OpenAI's leadership. The lawsuit's part of a larger dispute over how OpenAI has evolved, especially its shift towards a more commercial structure. And if nothing else, this latest amendment shows that Musk is trying to frame the case around OpenAI's founding purpose, not personal gain. Case is expected to go to trial later this month. So, you know, I mean, I'm a YouTuber that covers this kind of stuff. Like, you know, I'm going to be like, here's the latest, so get ready for that. All right, well, OpenAI did not just sit back and take it. They actually said, why don't we make some aggressive moves on our end? So OpenAI has now asked California and Delaware to investigate Musk's anti-competitive behavior ahead of the April trial. So OpenAI has sent this formal letter to attorneys general in California and Delaware, asking them to investigate what it calls anti-competitive behavior by Elon Musk. This comes right before this high-profile trial between the two sides. OpenAI thinks that Musk has been trying to weaken the company. They claim he coordinated efforts with other tech leaders and spreads attacks against them personally to hurt them. They also point to reports that Musk's associates tracked CEO Sam Altman and circulated damaging claims. That's interesting. I wonder if on X, like anytime Sam Altman has bad news, if it pushes it harder or something. Anyways, Musk helped start OpenAI in 2015, of course, left in 2018, and has a competitor to them with XAI. So there's reason why they might be able to say he's trying to be anti-competitive here. The lawsuit argues that he was misled when OpenAI began shifting towards a for-profit model. OpenAI says Musk's actions could slow down progress towards advanced AI systems. They argue that this could shift the control of powerful technology away from safety-focused groups. What's their thinking about that one? I mean, they shift power away from safety-focused groups. I mean, so does Elon. Nobody cares enough about safety, but whatever. I guess that tries to make some look better or whatever. But anyway, that just means this investigation is got even higher stakes than ever now. So it's one for the record books here. The court case to own AGI is almost what it feels like. Let's talk about consciousness, favorite topic of ours. So Kenneth Leong wrote on Medium, consciousness is not primary. This was something I've been pondering a lot this week. I've always listened to like Sam Harris's point of view, which was the one thing that you know is that you are you and you are in your own head and you are having an experience right now. And beyond that, everything else is kind of like I think other people are having an experience. I can empathize with them, but like I don't know because I'm not them. And I can't know all sorts of other things about the universe because there's only one perspective of me. But there's also this kind of interesting other side that I've been contemplating, which is that you might be able to have that, and it's not the foundation of reality to build off of. So consciousness might not be a good base reality to go from. Maybe it's an emergent thing, which kind of makes sense to me too. So he's saying that all of this consciousness stuff starts with a simple mistake. Just because we need consciousness to experience the world does not mean that the world, is made of consciousness or that it is an actual thing. It's like saying mountains are made of eyes because we need eyes to see them. Like, that wouldn't make sense. The author also points out a deeper problem that if we don't even agree on what consciousness is, it makes it even harder for us to take it as any kind of a base. I mean, for some people, it means awareness or attention or memory or something else. If the concept is unclear, it cannot serve as a foundation of anything. And then there's the scientific view. Consciousness changes with the brain. It develops over time. It breaks under injury. It disappears under anesthesia. And that looks like something produced by biology, not from something fundamental. The text also brings in Buddhism. Early teachings describe consciousness as dependent and temporary, not eternal or primary. And finally, it points out that AI exposes a bias. We judge consciousness in others based on behavior. When machines act like us, we hesitate, not because of the evidence, but because of the intuition. The conclusion is simple. Consciousness matters deeply, but being necessary for experience does not make it any kind of basis to build off of. Thoughts in the comments section. I'll check them out. All right, forget about the AI apocalypse because memes have already nuked our culture, according to this author. Let's hear Willie Staley's opinion on all this because, it does. I do feel brain rot sort of everywhere in myself, and it feels like around other people too. And he argues that a viral phrase that means nothing might explain more about our culture than any AI fear ever could. So imagine a 9-year-old kid, doing 6-7 at school and asking what it means, when the simple answer is it doesn't mean anything. It's just 6-7, 6-7. You do it because you get attention, or you just say it because you say it, or you say it because other people say it, and it's just a pattern. And for Willie, that's what unsettles him, right? And honestly, it kind of should. The phrase comes from a chain of random internet moments, a lyric, a basketball reference, a few other videos. It just sort of spread everywhere. And the weirdness of it and the pointlessness of it is part of what made it even more viral. But that isn't rare anymore. Like, people repeat words from their phones all the time, thinking that they carry meaning when they don't. Usually those words point to something real, like even if it's silly, but 6-7 and a bunch of other examples that I can think of, they're just different. Like, it's a gap between how widely something spreads and how little it actually means, or the impact that it has. It's like a signal moving through the system just because it can. So the bigger point is that the internet doesn't just reflect culture anymore. It sort of pushes things into the real world, even when they're empty. And now, even when you're offline, that logic follows you. Fake news just permeates everywhere. Like, matching opinions to your friends matters more than whatever those opinions are. It shapes how people talk, how they think, how they connect. And the strange part isn't the meme anymore. It's just how easily we all accept something with no meaning at all. Just love it. No meaning, that's me now. And it's my identity, and I'm going to die for it. I'm going to talk about it unless we all change to something else. Then I'm all about that for some reason. Do you feel like something's broken in reality right now? I don't know how else to describe it. Next up, let's talk about how your brain is for sale, right? Like your brain signals are now being collected and sold. Most people don't realize it, so just want to put this one on your radar. For years, companies have made money from your personal data. Now they've moved on to something much more private, your brain activity. So a growing market of wearable devices can now read electrical signals from your brain. These include headsets and headbands designed for focus, sleep, and meditation. They all collect EEG data, which is basically your brain's electrical activities. And there is now one real case that shows the risk. A user discovered that by accepting the device's terms, he gave the company permanent rights to his brain data. He couldn't access it himself unless he paid, and the company stored it indefinitely. The court later ruled that this violated the rights of the person and ordered the data to be deleted, but these devices are still sold in many countries. How many people are really fighting for this data? The problem is laws haven't caught up. Companies are definitely going to take it because of its future potential, and the brain data can reveal attention, stress, emotional reactions, a whole bunch of things that you're probably not aware of, or maybe even systems haven't figured out yet. But in the near future, ASI or AGI or just more narrow AI will figure it out. And unlike a password, you can't change your brain signals. That makes this kind of data far more sensitive than anything we've ever dealt with before. And finally, I'm going to leave you with this paper, Mathematical Methods and Human Thought in the Age of AI. The authors are basically saying that AI should be treated as the next step in a long history of human tools for making, organizing, and sharing ideas, but then again, maybe it should be called something else because this tool is different. Older tools mostly changed how work was delivered. AI can now help create the work itself, including art, writing, and even mathematical proofs, and that creates a new problem. The results can look polished and correct while being disconnected from real understanding, real people, or our needs. And the paper uses mathematics as a test case for this. Math is useful here because proofs can often be checked more clearly than work in other fields. And the author explains that AI might get very good at producing valid proofs, but that is not the same as giving insight or judgment or meaning to why that proof exists in the first place. A proof can be correct, it can be powerful, and it can still teach us very little. They also warn about real costs like job loss, unequal access to this kind of technology, environmental strain, bad incentives, weak citation standards, and the risk of AI feeding on AI-made content until it drifts so far away from reality that everything these systems are doing are not in our best interest anymore, right? It's all a little bit close to the alignment problem. But their main point is simple. AI should stay human-centered as long as possible. We should have laws and conversations about how to make that happen. And it should expand human thought, not replace it. And it should be built to benefit people broadly, not just a small group. Hit subscribe and share this video with a friend.